So, Natalie Mercer, we meet again. For people who don't know, Natalie, you were the person who, when we first got Benny, we people maybe who read their website know about Benny, but you did the puppy, you did everything there. You were the dog trainer, and then I remember when you. This is back in like 2016. You had gone to like some national conference, and now like you seem to be really like the whole dog training thing is, and especially now, like I feel like people, I don't know, maybe you can talk about that. Like people are having problems with their dogs now. I don't know if it's like a symptom of like the modern times we're in. Maybe we've changed as human beings in our relationship to dogs, and maybe the problem lies with us and the way we live our lives.
I mean, to a certain extent, I think it can come from a variety of things. So I know I read something the other day to say that for a lot of people, dogs kind of fill some sort of emotional void for a lot of people for, again, a variety of reasons. And it kind of causes them to humanize their dogs. And
To
I think the
humanize their
more,
dogs.
yeah, people humanize their dogs, and if you don't treat a dog like a dog, it doesn't know how to behave like one. So,
What do you think about that?
I mean, I definitely don't think it's a good thing. I have to catch myself even from time to time. Uh, just wanting to overlove my dogs, I guess, to a certain extent. And if you overlove them, I mean, people overfeed, they
Yeah.
overtreat, they overexercise sometimes,
Oh,
they
really? Do you see
overcuddle,
people over
overcoddle.
exercising their dog?
I mean, occasionally. I
Yeah,
mean, I guess
really?
it,
Wow.
yeah, like people will take it to an extreme extent. So you see, you see far ends of the spectrum. You see people who are so into their dogs being fit, and they'll take it to an extreme, and their dog is, an athlete
And
and
it's like a
strictly an
chihuahua. It's
athlete.
like not meant to do that.
And then there are just it's the dog that's strictly an athlete, and then there's people who have a dog that's strictly as a pet. I know I see, I say overweight is probably the biggest thing I see.
Yeah.
Overfed,
Yeah. And it's hard to know. Like,
overcoddled.
I mean, you're not the dog. Even if you're not familiar with dogs, you're just giving your dogs occasional treats. You're probably snacking the dog as much as you're snacking during the day.
Right,
And so you're
or
like, oh,
just
it's fine for the dog, right? But then somebody's like, all of a sudden, somebody says, oh, your dog looks a little fat, man. And you're like, oh, really? And then you kind of notice, yeah, oh, yeah.
right. And then
And
certain
so,
people, like I say, people even take it to an extreme where they think, oh, they're happy, who cares? It's
yeah,
not a big deal, or they don't notice it.
with me and Benny, with us and Benny, I mean, we had just moved to Vegas that month, and we were the only people we knew here. And I think we did a dog. We got a dog because we thought it was something that we could have, and it could keep us company, and while we're learning about a new place. And looking back on it now, I think that was like and you'll tell me, you know, whether I'm right or wrong, or we'll explain it all. Um, I think that was a terrible idea because we didn't know anything about Vegas. We didn't know where to take him, where other dogs would be, where was it safe for him to go, where would be fun for him to go. And so we basically stayed in our neighborhood, and there's nobody out in our neighborhood. I live around a bunch of old people, and so there wasn't any kids, there wasn't any dogs, and
Right.
so we'd take him for a walk, and he might not see another dog or might not see another person, and we'd take him for a walk, and be out for an hour, and we'd think, oh, that he had his walk, we're doing okay, but not realizing, hey, this dog's not seeing anybody.
Not necessarily getting enough exposure growing up.
Right.
Yeah,
And then
yeah,
we started to see fear like right around, he was born in June, so right around like maybe November, he started to get like a little fearful of things, the wind, plastic bags, and we'd work with him like trying to like here, put treats by it and get him close and show him what it is. But then, then he had some bad run-ins with some like really spoiled older dogs. Like one dog nipped him when he was a puppy. When he was a puppy, he liked to play. But then these older dogs that once our in-laws moved, they brought two dogs, and they were grouchy. Like they never wanted to play with Benny, and they were spoiled, and so they would nip at him or growl at him, and he's like a puppy. And so he kind of, after that, they would bark at the door, and then he started barking at the door with us. And so
right.
we're like,
Just kind of learned behavior.
yeah, we're like, crap, like he's picking up these bad behaviors, and then your dog, you see your puppy developing bad behaviors, and if you're not experienced like we were, um, it just spirals out, and then you start avoiding things that are going to trigger him, and then but then he's not working on it, and then it just reinforces. So I don't mean, what do you think about all that?
I think it's the thing. I kind of like what you're saying when people start to have problems with their dog, instead of like they get frustrated or they
Yeah.
don't want to make mistakes, and so instead of going really far out there, not even so far out there, but just really genuinely going and looking for the resources and the help, they do kind of like what you say. They stop taking them out, or they don't take them out as often, or they try to avoid certain situations. So instead of increasing the exposure and helping the problem and starting to work through it, they kind of shut the dog down and almost make the problem worse by keeping them in the house, or not walking, like say, not walking them as much, not taking them as many places, limiting the amount of environments they can be in. I think there's always ways to work through it, but again, sometimes people need help, and they gotta just reach out on the
And
trainer.
people are so embarrassed of asking for help because it makes you, I mean, yeah, I mean, I know from experience, right? Like it makes you feel like you're a bad dog parent, and that you are being irresponsible by even having a dog, and that you're damaging this dog, and why did you get this dog, and blah blah blah. So you just kind of like shelter with your dog, with your your dog problem. And especially in Latino households, like there'll be a dog that, oh yeah, don't pet that dog bites, and the dog's like 11, and it's bitten everybody its whole life, and you just leave it in a room, or you leave it locked up somewhere, and I especially coming from that. And then, like, what do you think about the Cesar Milan method? I mean, I one time I was at this puppy place, and well, there was these trainers, and they brought puppies, right? And it was outdoor, and I guess so people can look at the puppies, whatever. And this dog was like being mouthy with me, and I went like that, because I just seen the dog whisperer, and they all ganged up on me. They're like, "Don't do that," blah blah blah. I'm like, "Yeah, but Cesar Milan says that." It's like they're like, "Fuck Cesar Milan. He's an animal abuser," blah blah blah. So like, I mean, where do you fall on that debate? What when you're experiencing problems with a puppy, especially? Let's keep it with a puppy, right? Because
So you're like more so questioning like what my opinion on Caesar, or my opinion on like correcting a puppy for doing something.
well, both, right? Because
So
I mean, a mainstream person who doesn't know anything about dogs, the first thing they're going to see is the dog whisperer, and they're going to learn about Cesar
right,
Milan, right? You know what I mean?
right. And if you go to Caesar himself, he says he's not necessarily a dog trainer. So he's
Behaviorist or
not,
something, right?
yeah, he's a behaviorist. So he's not going out there. He's not necessarily an expert at teaching a dog new behavior. So he's
Yeah. What
not
is the
necessarily
difference?
like an animal behaviorist or a behavior modification specialist or whatever title you want to give them. They work with like modifying the dog's behavior. So removing an unwanted behavior, aggression, resource starting, insecurity issues to the point where the dog is shut down and has severe anxiety, things like that. Things that teaching a new behavior is not going to fix a problem if you're just got a behavior that you need to remove instead.
Yeah, that's kind of what Benny is, right? Like, because I mean,
Yeah.
Benny's really smart. He knows all these tricks, right? He could be like a show dog. He knows, and he learns quick because he's so food motivated. He'll do anything for food. He'll learn anything. I think he'll learn how to fucking write an essay. But his problems are behavior, right? He's very insecure, and he's very fearful. I mean, the last time he bit my wife's face, he was in bed. Both bites in the face have been when we were all in bed in the morning, and she would be like, "Hey, Benny," and then he would side eye her, and then before it was too late, he'd bite her, and he got her once underneath the eye, and he got her this most recent time on the mouth and stitches. And I think it's because one in the morning he tends to be moody because I think he has to go to the bathroom first thing in the morning, right? But also two, like he's just insecure. Like he thinks like when you go to grab him like that, even somebody he loves. This is how insecure he is. He loves my wife. I raised him, but he loves her. He doesn't love me like that. He'll leave me behind, um, but he's bitten her more than anybody.
Then it's the thing of it makes you wonder, like, is it a thing of loving her or respecting her? And those are two
Right.
completely different things.
Explain that. I mean, because that's hard for people to understand, right? Like the difference between love and respect.
Yes. That's actually one of the, I would say, probably one of the hardest things that I have to tell a lot of my clients is, hey, either A, your dog doesn't respect you, or even worse, the majority of the time, is, hey, your dog doesn't trust you. And if your dog doesn't trust you, They're not.
And
Why would they give
what
a
are some
crap
reasons
about
for
them?
that? For not a dog not trusting an owner? Because some people would be like, "Ah, my dog's with me all the time. Of course they trust me."
Yeah, and people will think that because they're like, oh yeah, my dog loves me because he follows me, he's with me all the time, I feed him, whatever. But if you have your dog out in a situation and you tell them to sit and stay, but they see something that they maybe think is a potential threat, whether it's a strange person or a dog or, say for Benny, the wind, a vehicle driving by, whatever it may be. Um, all of a sudden, what you've said, they can't trust that. That's not good enough for them. They are going to do this more flighty response of either barking and reacting to it or attempting to flee away. Um, and it's a thing of, I don't know, I say there's several ways to build your value and add structure to your life, depending on the situations that your dog might be in. But for
And one
like
would be
anything
what
else.
you do. I mean, you do a lot of agility and like your dog Sky, and they're both your dogs, Sky and
Yeah,
Ghost.
Sky and Ghost, yeah, they're both.
And you see, they do agility and sports. Everybody go to Sky. What is it? Sky Dogs Training
Yeah.
on Instagram. You take really good photos. Period of dogs.
Thank you.
I mean, are you using a special camera or
Out on iPhone.
really 11?
Yeah.
Right, 11.
Yeah, I think so. I'm pretty sure that's what I have.
No, they're like arresting. Like you come across them and it's like, wow, that's really vivid. And like I said, that trail, that Union Pacific Trail.
It's a very long trail, but some good spots for sure.
So I mean, how does it start for you? I mean, where did you had dogs as a kid?
I actually had boxers growing up, so I didn't have very intelligent dogs. I actually had big, dumb dogs. Um,
But loving,
they
right?
moved,
Boxers are
yeah,
pretty
of
loving,
course.
right?
And the one that was mine, once I was old enough to have a dog of my own, once he got old, we knew he was kind of on his way out. We knew he was going to pass away within the next few days. Like we kind of knew it was coming. So I decided to start looking at puppies like one before he was gone because I knew after the moment of having him gone, I was too broken to try and start looking at
Gutted,
puppies.
just gutted.
Yeah. I was like, I'm going to pick one out before because I'm going to need one. So I started.
So I mean, what you said about dogs, right? That they filled an emotional gap.
Yeah,
You're
right.
preparing for that gap coming. You're like, I actually don't want a gap, so I want this here now.
Exactly. I don't want to have to deal with this alone. So I'm
Yeah,
going to
yeah,
get a puppy to help me out. And I wanted a corgi. I was looking at, honestly, I was not doing it the right way. I didn't know any better then. So I was looking at pet stores and
We got Benny off of Craigslist.
that's where I found Sky. So I ended up finding Sky on Craigslist because pet store puppies were too expensive. I couldn't find what I wanted for
Right.
what I wanted to pay. So I found Blue Healers or Craigslist, bought her, and I just got really lucky. She was just really good from the get go. Trained her just basic obedience because I was a dog trainer at Petco already. So I just kind of was teaching her what they had taught me. So sit down, leave it, stay. And then I met the people at Smarty Paws and we did a trick workshop. So they did just a 2-hour workshop of teaching dogs tricks. And it was with Sarah Carson and the Super Collies. And so I met her for the first time and they all kind of saw some potential in Sky. And so it kind of kicked me into gear to figure out how to teach her all these tricks. And it just kind of snowballed from there, I guess. And as soon as she was what I say complete, I got Ghost and said, let's do it again. So
And blue healers, right? You always notice them when they show up at a park because they have. I mean, they're almost like they're like border collies, right? They have a presence about them where they're like, so like some dogs are just big and goofy and dumb, or like Yorkshires are, they're almost like squirrels. I see that they're alive, but I don't see a real personality behind them. But some dogs have like a deep personality, right? And blue healers, right? Are they a cattle dog?
yes, Australian cattle dog, same thing.
So like that make that those same thing with the border collies, right? Those shepherds are probably the smartest dogs, right? Because they've been trained, they've been evolved for hundreds of years to understand what the owner, the shepherd, wants them to do. Take the sheep here, do this, do that. And is that why they're so adept at learning like tricks and stuff like that?
Yeah, they were specifically bred to take instruction from one person from a distance. So they're made to do it.
So super loyal too, super attached.
For sure.
Because
For sure.
that's the same thing about min pins, right? Benny's half min pin, half beagle supposedly. He looks like a big min pin. Um, we also think that, this is related because people always say, "Oh, what a nice puppy!" Because he looks like a puppy. His ears are floppy, everything, and he's white, and he does,
White, yeah.
yeah. And so people think, "Oh, nice puppy." And he's about to turn 4 in June. In June 9th is his birthday. And I heard that getting your dog neutered too early stunts their growth.
Oh
And
yeah.
so they learn behavior issues, like they're still puppies, so they're still fearful longer, they're still insecure longer, and they keep on that puppyhood longer. They don't shake it until they're like 3 or 4.
Right.
And so looking at Benny, that he looks like a puppy, and everybody says he looks like a puppy. I'm thinking, and we got him neutered. We thought the sooner the better. Again, like first time. I had dogs as a kid, right? But they were always like my grandma's or my mom's. I didn't have to take care of it myself. I would feed it or
Right.
something, but it wasn't mine. But yeah, not knowing, we're like, hey, the sooner the better. Neuter your dog as soon as you can. That's healthy, right? Bob Barker always says, spay and neuter your dogs. So like, what do you? I mean, have you heard anything about that, about neutering dogs
Of
early?
course. Yeah. I think it's a thing of, it's not so much a thing of what's, when they're encouraging you to neuter or spay your dog earlier, it's not so much about the health of the dog. They're completely throwing the health of the dog out the window and saying it's a population control issue at that point. So animal control has to, rescue groups have to, because they don't know where those dogs are going. They're already mixed breed dogs as it is, things like that. But it's definitely, with Sky, I waited. So I waited until she had her first heat cycle and everything like that, and got her spayed after. And then with Ghost, I did it early. I thought, screw it, I don't want to deal with marking. I don't want to deal with him wanting to mount other dogs or whatever it may be. So I said, let's go ahead and neuter him early. So I did it at maybe 5.5, 6 months old. And I still to this day say it's the biggest mistake I made with him.
Wow.
So if I could go back, I would have said he probably still wouldn't be neutered. And he's a little over 2. And we'd probably be talking about it now.
But
So I think
why?
structurally, I can definitely see a difference. So his chest never filled in. He doesn't have much of a chest at all. He's definitely more of a fearful dog. He's very insecure. Like I say, biggest mistake I made. I think for sure the experience itself was very traumatic. The animal hospital that I had taken him to, I was supposed to pick him up at about 4 o'clock, and they called me at work, and I didn't answer because I was at work. So they called my boyfriend at about 1 o'clock to go and pick him up because they said, hey, come and get your dog. He hates us. I was a 5-month-old puppy.
Same thing happened with
So
Benny. But go ahead, yeah.
yeah, we went and picked him up, and he was super, honestly, he's been insecure from that point forward. And now he has a sort of stress response to where if another dog approaches him too quickly, or if another dog comes and takes something from him, if a person pets him too quickly, he chases his tail. So he just, instead of snapping at them or lunging or doing anything like that, he spins. Right. He just chases his tail.
I wish Benny chased his tail because he bites.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and the same thing happened with Benny. Like the first time he went to the vet, it was a man, and Benny didn't like him. And again, he's a puppy. He's, this is in August, so he's born in June, so he's however many months, and he didn't like him. And then we're like, and the guy's like, you better do something about this puppy, man. He has aggression issues, and we're like, oh fuck, But he's still a puppy, so we don't really know what to do. We've been taking him to the puppy classes, and he was doing good at the puppy little parties on Sundays. But and then we took him to the vet again, to get, I think, his 3rd round of shots, and it was a girl vet, and he hit it off. He was perfect with her. He was a puppy with her, and so then we're like, oh fuck. And then people would always ask us like, well, maybe that vet wasn't a good vet, because we didn't see him after that anymore either. Right. So, and that's so heartbreaking, isn't it? That because you have so I think with a person, a kid. You're a kid for like 5 years, 6 years, right? But like with a puppy, you have like this little window to help them form the most confident, curious, adventurous, full dog that they can be, right? And if you don't, then they're just always cowering. They're always, held back. And I see that with Benny. Benny's so smart. The reason why he's so smart is because he's so curious. But then he has this fear, and it's like, man, he could have been like something. And we still have him. We took him we took him. He bit her on the eye when he was about to turn 1.
That was a while ago.
Yeah, and we took him. We no, I don't even think we took him to the shelter then. We took him to the shelter last summer because we're like, that's it. He's bitten everybody, bitten me a few times, bitten her a bunch of times, bitten people. Started, I have a 15-year-old stepdaughter. She's 15 now, but we had middle schooler girls coming, to the house, and we're like, we don't want one of these kids being bit. One, because that's a lawsuit, but two, like then you're scarring some kid who's going to be afraid of dogs for the rest of their life, right?
Right.
But he bit my wife Rocio in January, and it's crazy because it was such a nice month. We were hanging out with this other dog the whole month and taking him for these long walks everywhere. We take him everywhere, and then he bit her on the bed one Saturday morning, Friday morning actually, and he just snaps, he turns into like a wild dog. He doesn't recognize you, he doesn't know you, he doesn't know anybody. He's just alone. But then he knows that he messed up because he'll go to his bed, and then I'll tell him to come, we'll tell him to come by us and like sit down, and lay down and relax. And we won't yell at him, but we'll just be till he relaxes. Because again, that's what we learned from fucking Caesar. That's all we know, right? So he knows he did wrong, and he loves her, and he knows that after he bites her, they're on icy ground for weeks because it takes her time to trust him again. This is her first dog. She didn't like animals. So like, and now we're, when the coronavirus pandemic came, I was looking for, I had sent like 50 emails out places. There's a lot of places in Utah for some reason, but they're not taking Benny. They either it's weird. They take pit bulls or wolves or coyotes, but they won't take this little white dog, And when this thing happened, we're like, well, screw it. We're out working from home. We'll just keep him home and work with him. Right. Because we don't want him to be somebody else's problem during the pandemic. But I mean, that's where we are when the reopening happens. I'm going to go back to looking for a home for him because he's just. I mean, we just can't afford to. Next time he might bite somebody's eye out, right? And it might not be us. It might be somebody else who, it's not their dog. They shouldn't have to worry about getting their eye bitten out by some dog, right? But we don't want to see him put down because we know that he can go again. He's been since January. And he's had some flare-ups here, but he's learning how to just growl and not bite, which is what we prefer, right? Just tell us this bothers you. You don't like the situation, then we'll both get out of here, but don't bite. And he's just a silent biter. But so, yeah, that's where we're at right now. And I'm sorry to unload, but, the dog is like, it's, it's the most personal thing to you, right? It's like the thing that you could be dealing with your career or whatever. And in the back of your mind, you're like, what am I going to do with this dog if you have dog problems?
Yeah. No, I'd say it's definitely a thing of, I do think his issues can be fixed. I definitely think it can go away. His lifestyle would have to change drastically, though.
Yeah. Which means that ours would, and that's where we're at, right? That's where we're like, okay, we can't afford to have that lifestyle, and so it's not fair for this dog to be put down just because his owners can have a certain lifestyle. But that's what happens. That's what's happening every day, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they say there's more dogs than humans in the world, so.
Is that true?
Oh yeah, there are more dogs than humans in the world.
Well, there's places like in Mexico and Juarez, like you go there and it's a whole like. Back in my neighborhood, there was a group of boys running around, like 5 or 6 or 7, and like 10 of them. But in Juarez, there's a group of dogs walking around. And they go around and pick each other up every morning because they have different owners, right? But then they just wander the streets all day by themselves.
Yeah.
And those dogs are like, what's up?
Said making more dogs.
Well, yeah. But those dogs are like super chill, right? Those dogs, they could be like in the middle of like a busy street, and you never unless you have a guard dog, right? There's some people who don't socialize their dogs in Mexico, right? Because they have them and it's sad. And I know people who've done this. They have a house, and you have to guard your house, right? So you have a dog, a pit bull usually, or a shepherd, some kind of shepherd. And you just don't socialize it. It's friendly to you, but you can't let it around strangers because it just wants to bite anybody, right? And a lot of people have dogs like that. But then there's those dogs that are stray dogs, and they're around strangers all day, and everybody pets them. And who owns this dog? I don't know who owns this dog, but it's the friendliest dog. And there's so many of those dogs. But like, and then if you tell some Mexican or somebody from Latin America, like, oh, here in America we have, we have to take our dogs and spend thousands of dollars on a behaviorist to help us. They'd laugh. They'd be like, "What are you talking about?" So I
Yeah.
mean, it has to be our culture, right?
I mean, like I say, I think it's a big thing of people humanizing their dogs and wanting their dogs to fill like certain voids. So, like I say, I've even caught myself where it's like you have to remind yourself it's not a child, it's not your best friend. Because I mean, yeah, it may be your best friend, of course. Like, I definitely think of Sky that way, but
Yeah.
you got to remember at the end of the day, you can't treat it like a human being. You got to treat it like a dog, so that way it feels like biologically complete. Yeah,
Yeah.
like it's not biologically satisfied if you're not treating it like what it is.
It's like if somebody didn't treat you as a human being, if they treated you like as some other animal, you'd be
Like
like,
treat me like a bird or whatever, and
well, I guess there's
expect
those
me
people who
to.
think they're furries, right? I mean, like, so
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
that.
yes, but at the end of the
Unless you
day,
were
they can't.
born a dog, we don't want to offend anybody who's born a dog. If you were born
Like
a
I say,
dog inside, then go ahead and lick yourself, whatever. But
but at the end of the day, you can't deny your human biological needs.
ooh,
It's the same with a
yeah,
dog. You can't there and Caesar says this. Caesar says that at the end of the day, you require to give your dog exercise, structure, and affection, and in that order.
and in that order.
And your dog should be healthy. Your dog should have a structured lifestyle with clear communication, and then affection comes after all of that.
And I feel like I did that, but then I live in a household where people didn't do that, and the order was opposite. And so, just like with parents, right? Where parents are trying to be on the same page because they're like, we don't want our kids thinking two different things, right? Having two separate rule books, but like that's what happened with Benny, right? That's what happens with a lot of dogs. One person gives all the treats, one person does all the training, does all the walking, does all the exercise.
And the household structure has a lot to do with it too. So I can tell you just from the story you told me with Benny, it happened on your bed to where Benny should have never been up on that bed.
He hops in the bed every morning
Yeah, to
and
where
sleeps
like
under the
if the
blanket.
second that became even slightly an issue, no more bed.
Yeah,
And it could have all just never even happened. If
yeah,
the second he was giving her the side eye and getting unusual, get off the bed then.
yeah.
See you later, buddy.
No, and that's what I do, right? I know what situations trigger him, right? And I just avoid those situations, right?
Right.
Um, but I think with my wife, she just was hurt. This is her first dog, right? And she
Yeah.
loves the dog, right? She humanizes it. She talks to it, like has conversations with it. I'm like, I can hear her in the other room, like having these, like saying
Talking to
these like
Vinny.
long formal sentences, and she's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, he's not gonna answer you. Why do you keep? It's 4 years now, and she has this wish in her heart that one day he'll just start
He's gonna
talking
respond.
like a Teddy Ruxpin, just start talking and say what he's thinking and what he feels. Oh, this is great. I love this. I love this food. Thanks, Mom. She wants him to say that. I just, I'm nice to him. I take care of him, right? But I don't like talk to him like that. But what was I gonna say? Yeah. So he bit her on the he bit her on the bed, right? Get off the bed. You're not allowed on the bed anymore. Boom. And first of all, I grew up like dogs shouldn't be in the bed anyway. But I think she was trying to earn brownie point after that happened, and every time it happens, she tries to
Trying to
earn
cuddle
brownie
him
points.
more.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
And
here, like
again,
me, trust me, I'm your friend. You don't have to bite me. I give you treats. I let you do whatever you want.
and that's where love and respect are different. Love me, love me, love me, but never, no, you need to respect me. That was completely
And so the
disrespectful.
other thing is like, she's like, well, no, I'm not willing. I don't understand how I'm supposed to be towards this dog. I only know how to be towards this dog the way I'm being towards it, which is loving and affectionate and
Right.
spoil it, you know? And so we have to give him away because I can't be what he needs me to be.
Yeah. Okay. I say find a good rescue group, someone that's willing to work with him. Like say Utah's got a lot of places.
Why is that? I mean, I guess they have a lot of space, but they have a
They have a lot
lot of
of dogs.
places.
They get a lot of farm dogs that get out and breed with other farm dogs, and
I always thought that
yeah,
that's what
a lot
Benny
of
would be good
space.
on. He'd love to be on a big ass farm, sleeping in a barn underneath stack of hay every night and like just being free. He doesn't like to be touched. He's like a cat almost. He doesn't like to be touched. Sometimes when he wants to cuddle, he likes to cuddle. But if he doesn't like, he's like, if you just go up to touch him for no reason, he's like, why are you touching me? He gets nervous. He gets nervous real easily over anything. And is it? I mean, is that from us too? Is that our? And I'm speaking personally, like me and my wife's personality, because me and her aren't. I mean, we're social, like out in social situations, but we're not like super social, right? And like we feel like he doesn't like to be touched. Yeah, I get that. I don't like to be touched either. I'm not blah blah blah. Like a lot of his personality traits are actually ours, which makes you feel even worse. It makes a dog the perfect psychologist because a dog will tell you exactly what the fuck's wrong with you. Like
Oh yeah.
all its antisocial tendencies, you're like, oh, I got that, I do that.
Yeah, and I think like that comes down to like a nature versus nurture thing. So yeah, it could have been genetics. Of course, genetics are, either going to set them up for success or set them up for failure. And then nurture comes into play and how they're raised and
There's
the
been a
amount of
lot of
exposure they
genetic.
get. Yeah, like you say, Benny, he's especially for the two breeds that he supposedly is, he's white. His genetics are all kinds of
Yeah.
recessive.
Right, because
So
I heard that the lemon, it's called lemon, right? That because
the lemon beagles,
he has
yeah.
the
But the
patches
fact that
over his eyes.
which lemon is recessive on the beagle's end to where breeding it with a min pin, that shouldn't even be possible. It's not possible. So there's something else going on there. Either the min pin had weird genetics or there's something else in him making him
So
white.
what would I do? Would I go to the vet and say if I wanted to get him like, is there a way to test his genes for
Oh
something?
yeah, you could definitely do a DNA test, but if again at the end of the day, if you're not going to keep him,
But still, I mean, if say
you can
we're not
invest
going
in
to
a
keep him,
DNA test. By all means, you can get them.
yeah, because we would want to know, right? Like, say
Yeah, it'll
we give
tell
him
you.
away, he goes to a great home. It's always going to kill us. Like, what was wrong with that dog?
Yeah, you could go like, oh, he had some Jack Russell in him. Okay, maybe it was that Min Pin Terrier combo that just was not good.
Yeah, because he's white.
Or
He's got a bent tail. So we think maybe somebody tried to dock him, or maybe that's a genetic
or it
defect.
got shut in a door. Sometimes they get stepped on. If it happens while they're like a day or two old, sometimes it just.
Really?
Oh yeah, I've heard of things like that before, like puppies' tails accidentally getting stepped on or closed into a door, and they're just kinked forever.
Yeah, he's got that kink, and then he's the white, and so we had all these like we had a bunch of trainers tell us different things, and some people were like maybe the mom rejected him because he was the only white one in the litter.
And it could be a thing, not so much that, but where you guys got him from, like maybe he was weaned too early
Yeah.
to where he didn't get to spend enough time with his litter mates to where he didn't learn like the very, very basics of canine socialization and behavior because he was taken from his litter mates too soon.
What I mean,
For those
so
last 2 weeks with your litter mates, that's like the most crucial time for them as
we
far as learning
supposedly when we got
basics.
him, supposedly when he got him, he was like 9 weeks, but
Okay.
now I don't know anything about this lady. This lady she came out in her pajama pants, met us at
And
a
even
park in
even if he
some
was 9 weeks,
complex.
who's to say when he was taken away from mom and put on solid food and kept away from the litter? It could have
Yeah.
been 3 weeks from then.
Right.
So
I mean, what kind of weird traits or what kind of weird things do people come to you with their dog?
I mean, I get a variety of everything. So I get people who really know what they're doing and just want to learn more. And then I get a lot of people most of the time, it's people with dogs who have no structure whatsoever at home and are starting to take over the household. So they'll be claiming couches or nipping people or barking at people coming in the house. I get a lot of pulling on the leash, of course. But mostly
What?
just helping people restructure their households so that way their dogs are dogs again.
Yeah. Like, and if people, I mean, I guess you shouldn't encourage it, but like if people, obviously there's first time owners, there's families who everybody in the maybe there's a mom, dad, kid, and nobody's had a dog before, so they want a dog. What's a good beginner dog?
Again, I think it varies based on what you want. So I really like my herding breeds. I think if you want a dog that and you're willing to put in the time and you want a dog that you're going to put in time and effort with and that you want to do something with every single day,
Right.
herding dogs are the way to go. They communicate really well. They're, again, one person driven, so they take instruction from one person really well. But then again, there are, of course, households that don't want that drivey of a dog. They just don't want that. So, I mean, for some people, the St. Bernard may be the best option.
Really?
You know, I mean, if that's what you want in a dog, of course. Some
Why? They're
people,
just big, like dopey pushovers?
yeah, some people, like for my mom, growing up, boxers, they were perfect. We had 6 of them growing up. They were
Wow.
the best thing in the world to my mom.
Yeah.
And still to this day, if you ask her, she would say boxers are hands down the best. Whereas to me, I don't ever want to own another one of those.
Well, what does she like about them? What don't you like about them?
I mean, I like that they, again, low maintenance. So they say the smarter the dog is, the harder it is to own. So if you have a dog that's less intelligent, it requires less mental stimulation. So our
That's what I
boxers
always
are
get
really
offended. Like
easy.
people are like, "Oh, my dog's so well behaved." You know, there's people I know, people who are going to listen to this and know that I'm talking about them. You know, my dog doesn't do that. My dog does. And in my head, I'm thinking, yeah, because your dog's stupid. It
Because your
doesn't know.
dog's dumb and
Yeah.
doesn't think to go out and explore
Has no
and
willpower. Has
investigate,
no personality. Has no wishes to do
drive.
anything. Yeah,
Yeah,
just wants to be your
for sure.
shadow.
Yeah, and some dogs were bred to be that way. So like some people, like I know my neighbor has a Yorkie and he's perfect for her because she wants a dog that doesn't require a lot, that can go to the bathroom on her balcony and whatever. Like that's fine.
Oh my god!
If that works for her, I'm all for it. By all means. Whereas
Why
me,
would
I
you
don't
want
want a dog like
shit on
that.
your balcony?
I don't know, but if it's the size of a Yorkie's poop and you can just throw it away, that's okay. It's like
Yeah,
having a cat.
yeah, yeah. And
So
so I was gonna say this, but I left it out. This last time in January, we took him to. We had to call animal control again, and while he was in the shelter, and they said, 13 after 13 days and nobody claims him, we're euthanizing him. And so, at the day of, we're like, yeah, this is just what has to be happen, blah blah blah. And then we start crying. That first night, you can't sleep. We're crying, and we're like, did we do enough? We didn't do anything enough. Did we do enough? That's the first question. Then we're like, no, we didn't. We could have done this. We could have done that. We blah blah blah. He shouldn't die. He's got to. Anyways, and then my stepdaughter's like, okay, well, I want a cat. She's been wanting a cat, and now there's no dog. There's no, especially no dog, crazy dog. So we get a little kitten, and so we had to wait like a few days to bring Benny back, and then we bring him back, and the kitten's there, and so the kitten had to be in the room for. Anyways, long story short, they can be in the same. They hang out all the time, and
the
Benny
cat
tries to
and
play with her.
Benny.
Benny tries to play with her,
Yeah.
like gets on his front paws and like growls and tries to chase her, and she tries to chase him. She hunts him, and like there's no he's very submissive towards her, right? She'll go on his bed. She'll play with his toys, which if another dog did, Benny would go ballistic. But
Right.
anywhere she goes, he moves. Like if she comes towards him, he'll move, which is great. He doesn't. He growls. He walks away growling.
Yeah, he's
But
like, dang it. Yeah.
it's better than biting, right? And so this is just more like evidence that okay, this dog is not a people who some people who know him are like that dog needs to be put down. He's a menace. He's blah blah blah. But then they don't know this. They could see this dog playing with a cat every day, something their dogs wouldn't do, right? Their dogs can't be around cats because their dogs will go after the cat. Um, so I mean, it's so hard, man. Like my biggest fear is like, okay, what happens if I can't find a rescue?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough because it's one of those things. Like I
Have you had to
say,
put
there's
down a
more.
dog?
I've never had to put down one of my own for any of like I've had to put down my own dogs like if for old age and like okay they're at their end or
Right.
whatever. I've never had to put a dog down for behavior issues, but I fostered a dog that had kidney failure. She was a little over a year old, so she was really young. Sweetest dog in the world. I had her for about 3 months battling her kidney failure with her, and I was giving her all these different medications every day. She was drinking excessive amounts of water and having to go to the bathroom constantly. And one morning I called the rescue group and I said, hey, like, she was my very first very first dog I ever fostered. And so I told them, I said, I think someone with more fostering experience should have this dog. I said,
And was your voice trembling when you said that?
yeah, it was like bawling, crying. I was crying. I
Yeah.
was just a mess because I had just woken up. And when I went in to go let her out of her kennel, she stood up and she was just dripping in poop, pee, everything, just soaking wet. And I called and I was like, look, like this is becoming a regular thing here. She's not comfortable. She's miserable when she wakes up in the morning. And until her meds like get into her system, she'll feel okay for a few hours. And then we're having to like rush to get meds in her again to keep her feeling okay all day. And I was like, this just, I can't do it. It's emotionally draining on me. And they said, well, it's not a matter of somebody else fostering her. We just kind of have a tough choice to make here. And they paid extra for me to stay with her. And I brought her to a farm and let her meet some goats and some sheep and a bunch of horses. And we went to McDonald's and did the whole cheeseburger thing. And I had to bring a 1-year-old puppy to the vet and have her put down.
Were you in the room?
Of course, I couldn't leave her.
Yeah,
That was one
they say
thing.
not to leave your dog, right? If for owners
Yeah,
out
that was
there
one
to
thing.
be, if you
They
can be in
actually
the
had to
room,
pay
be in the
extra.
room.
Yeah, they had to pay. The rescue group paid extra for me to be able to be in the room with her. And even then, she was panicking. She was like in my lap, trying to avoid them coming anywhere near her. Like you could tell she knew that was it. And they had to sedate her and then do their thing. And
I
there was
mean, I've
really
never had to
nothing.
put down a dog, so I hear like, it's just their eyes. Dogs have that sparkle in their eyes, right? And then that sparkle just goes out,
Yeah,
and then it's just a body.
and I know our first dog. She didn't close her eyes, and like there was nothing we could really do. Like once they're gone, you can't close their eyes, so we just had to kind of like cover her face. And yeah, it's rough. But I say sometimes it's the right choice.
Yeah, for sure. My grandma had an old dog. She had to put it down during Christmas. It was like 15 years old. It was like a cockapoo or something like that. Candy. This dog was, spend some every day with her, right, for 15 years. And I guess she had to go put it down, but she couldn't afford. She had to take it to some place that was cheap, some vet, and they put the dog down and didn't allow her to be in the room with the dog.
Because it costs extra for you to take up the time in the room. Like you
Really?
have to pay to be in the room because they don't euthanize the dog in a veterinary room. If they just take it to the back and do it back there, and that's it. So if you're in the room and you're going to take up that room for 20 minutes because you're sitting in there bawling your eyes out and you can't drive home yet, that costs money. They could have
I mean,
somebody
I didn't
else in
even
there.
know that. I mean, I figured that they still did it the normal way, but they just didn't let you in the room. So that now I'm thinking like, okay, if I forever any reason have to put down a dog, you have to be in the room, right? Because one, they deserve to be with somebody that they know and love, right? Two, I don't want this dog to be put to sleep in the back of some animal hospital, like just like
And
nothing.
and then I think like depending on the animal hospital, I'm sure there's not so great animal hospitals out there to where you could bring your dog there and say, okay, I can't handle it. I don't want to be in the room. They could go and put your dog in a kennel for another 2 hours before they have time to do it. For you don't know, maybe your dog's sitting there for another 2 hours waiting to either you going to come back and get me? Oh no, they're killing me today. For like I could never just leave. I don't understand. My grandfather was one where he would never stay. He could never do it. And I'm like, how are you okay with leaving them?
Yeah. No, I mean, I was like, this last time, both times, but this last time especially, my wife's like, I'm done. She was just broken. She was heartbroken for the last time. It's like a boyfriend cheated on me for the last time. I can't do it anymore. Can't build that trust anymore. But she's done it. Now we're stuck together again. Now she loves the dog, and now they're best friends.
Yeah.
But I was like, I'm gonna go. Because it's like it's tough, man. Like you play that videotape in your head of what the dog's gonna do, what they're thinking. You know them so well, so you're thinking. You can see their facial expressions, and that just let's get off this topic, anyways.
Right? Super
Right,
sad
it's such a
topic.
downer. So what have you been hearing about? I mean, your dogs and your training. I mean, you seem to be getting a good reaction from people. People love seeing your dogs, and I mean, there's one of the latest videos of you doing what is that called, where the dog goes between your legs?
She's weaving, doing her weaves.
How do you teach a dog to do that? Because normally, like a dog is afraid of legs, right? When a person's walking, they try to stay away from the legs.
Possibly, yes. It's just luring with food. So my dogs have a lot of food value. I hand feed their meals as often as I can, and just lure and reward. So lure them into a position and reward them for progress, and then eventually reward them for completing it. So
What does hand feeding mean? Hand feeding their meals?
like I don't put their food in a bowl and just set it down and go, here you go ahead and eat your food. I take handfuls at a time, and we work on just different things depending on. Sometimes it's just okay, let's work through your meal really quick, let's do a bunch of stuff you already know, and sometimes it's sitting there for 15 minutes trying to teach them something new. It just
Yeah, so you
depends.
should be handling their food with your hand. I do. I grab it with a hand. I give him two handfuls, and then
Yeah,
try to like mix it up with my hands so that he
yeah, no, I
smells that
like
it's for me.
physically hand it to them.
Oh,
So they
not
eat
even
it
in a
out of my
bowl.
hand. No, it's not in a bowl. And it's like handfuls at a time. So they'll get like maybe 4 or 5 pieces at a time.
Holy shit! I mean, most people don't know about that. So, what's the benefits of that?
I say it's a thing of if you went up to majority of people's dogs and you held up a food bowl right here, it'd be tough to get the dog to make eye contact with you because they'd be so focused on that food bowl because they're food motivated, but they're not motivated by me, or they're not motivated by the person holding the bowl. They're motivated by the bowl full of food. So my dogs don't have a bowl full of food. They have me full of food. And so we can be out in public and I can be like, oh, come here. I need you to lay down and stay. And he knows that he's going to be paid for his work. So
You are the source of the food, not some bowl.
and that's their paycheck. So I think of it like if Petco wasn't really going to pay me, or was only going to pay me like one lump sum, and that was just okay, whatever work you do, you get paid the same regardless, I would work a lot less. To where if I'm getting paid according to the work that I'm doing, and I get paid more if I work in certain areas or whatever, my effort's going to be higher. My drive to work is going to be higher. So my dogs are extremely food motivated.
Yeah, I mean, so is Benny, and some dogs aren't though, right? I mean, some dogs. There's
Yeah,
some dogs that aren't motivated much by anything, right?
of course. But I say that naturally. So of course there's going to be their outliers. There's going to be
Right,
the
right,
exceptions to the rule, but
right.
naturally a dog or a canine of any sort should be motivated by a meal put in front of it and should want to eat it immediately.
And
Like
if somebody
and
should have a troubled white little dog or some other dog, and they want you to help, they want to require your services of training. How do they? Do people contact you or something?
oh, what do you mean?
Like,
Like
do you
through
train?
Instagram, my
Yeah,
phone number. Yeah, mostly people through Petco though. They'll just come walking right in the door and going, "Hey, I've got this problem." They're looking for a solution and they're trying to purchase a solution, and I can see what solution they have in their hand, and I'm going, okay, what problem are you trying to fix?
yeah,
And so a lot of the times it's me seeing that someone has a problem and going, hey, what are you trying to do here?
yeah.
Um, and then I can kind of help them. And majority of the time, they don't have the right solution in their hand, and I can help them find the right one. And I think that alone gets people to go, oh, well, you were able to help me with that. And I know that's not all the help I'm going to need with this. So maybe I should keep coming to you for help.
We had a few trainers. Like we got one referred to us. This guy named Vincent. He was like my age, from Chicago, but he was out here doing something. He said he had a degree in some kind of dog training, and so we did at home visits, an hour or
Okay.
something. He would take us to like GVR or something like that, and the last like that we did like maybe 5 sessions. The last session, he gave some stranger some food to give to Benny, and then Benny like side eyed, so he got in the way, and Benny bit the guy. That's the last time we saw that trainer. He's like, oh well, I'm giving up the dog training business, blah blah blah. He literally said something like that. Then we sent him to this place called Canine Training. We thought it was off leash training.
Okay.
Did you see that news
Like off leash
article?
canine. Yeah, yeah, I
We
did.
took him to that place,
Okay.
and they're like, yeah, you pay $2,000. He stays here for 3 weeks, and we work with him. 2 weeks for obedience and 3 weeks for any behavior issues, right?
Right.
And then they end up keeping him for 2 months, saying, "Oh, free of charge. We're just going to keep working with him." And then after 2 months, we're like, "No, this is not. This is shady." We went, picked him up,
How
and he
old
was
was he?
maybe 2 or 3.
Oh, geez.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then it was only afterward that we read all the articles, right? So Benny's been through the ringer.
Wow.
And so we don't even want to people keep referring to us trainers, and we're just so fucking shattered by the trainers that we've had that we feel like they've messed him up. That we're just like, just put him in a field somewhere where he can just run and he has food, and we don't know who to trust. You know?
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, hey, if like I say, it all depends on what you want to do with Benny. But if you ever need someone, of course, I have people. I always have people to refer. Like when someone comes to me with an extremely aggressive dog or something that I just either don't have the resources to work with or I don't feel comfortable enough working
Right.
with, or yeah, I'm tiny. I'm only
Right.
five
Right. Right.
one, so I'm not that, I don't have that intimidation factor that some situations are going to require or just going to benefit from having. But I do have people that when that situation arises that I send them. And it's hard because here in Vegas, I can't think of one person that I would send anyone to.
Yeah.
There are behavior modification trainers here in Vegas, but I can't think of a good one.
And there's a lot
I've
of, I
seen
mean, I feel like in Vegas, especially, I'm from Chicago, and I've just noticed a lot of people have dog problems here in Vegas. I don't know what that is
Mhm.
about. I don't know.
I think it's an issue of Vegas, again, just high traffic. They say that Lead Animal Shelter, so the Animal Foundation here in Vegas, is the highest traffic shelter in our entire nation.
Wow.
So we just have more dogs. So you think there's more dogs, there's going to be more dog problems because there's more dogs. And yeah, people are dumb, especially people here in Vegas. They're just not the brightest.
Are you born in Vegas or no?
I was actually born in Louisiana, and then I moved out here like
Oh.
middle school ish time. So I've been out here for a long time, but my
And in
roots are not
Louisiana, I'm
here.
sure like Louisiana, I mean, a dog is a dog. You treat a dog like a dog, not like a person.
Definitely. Dog goes outside. If it doesn't want to come back, oh well, that's the dog's problem.
Let the gator
But
get it, right?
yeah, um, yeah, definitely different mentality. But I can definitely say that my mentality now is completely different from that for
Yeah.
sure. Like I know I butt heads with my family a lot because they're like, "Oh, just let your dog be a dog. Oh, that poor thing has to work for every bite of food and whatever they want to say." Where it's like, my dog's a lot happier than a lot of people's dogs. My dog lives a lot more stress free than a lot of other people's dogs.
Isn't that terrible that like people pressure you to spoil your dog?
Yeah.
And the peer pressure is so great, right? Like, oh, poor thing, you don't give him any human food, please, just a little French fry. You're denying him. You're neglecting him. You're not showing him love.
And then you'll talk to a veterinarian, and they say that they have at least 5 cases a week coming in with dogs who have pancreatitis from eating McDonald's French fries.
Just that.
McDonald's French fries gives dogs pancreatitis regularly.
But imagine what it gives human beings.
Right. It can't be good for a dog. Yeah. So I don't, and again, I'm not against giving your dog human food. Someone asked me that the other day. My dogs get human scraps all
Like
the
what?
time.
But what are there any limitations other
Of
than
course. I mean, I'm not going to give them something that could be harmful or something that they're not going to digest easily.
what are some of the things that are harmful that people don't know about? Because there's a lot, right? There's like
Like I know the big
avocados or
ones,
something like that.
like avocado pits. So avocado itself isn't that big of a deal. It's the pit or that big old seed in the middle.
Yeah.
Grapes are bad.
Grapes. And how many people would think like, oh, it's a little grape, I'll give it to the dog?
Right. As a matter of fact, that dog that had kidney failure that I was fostering, they think that it was from her eating about a handful of grapes. They think that's what caused her kidney failure. They say garlic isn't the best, onions, things like that. I've also learned that like raw carrots, so like raw vegetables, watermelon rinds, things like that, whatever chunks they swallow, they're coming out the exact same way. So if your dog swallows a big old chunk, it may or may not make it all the way through. So you shouldn't necessarily give your dog a lot of things that are raw that they would break off into solid chunks.
Right. And here's a Nevada, Vegas related question. I mean, what do you do? And I'm asking for a friend here. If your dog eats weed,
let them ride it out. There's not much else you can do.
Benny's eaten a joint once, and he gets a little wobbly and he just sleeps.
Yeah, they wobble. My dogs have both been there. So Ghost will get extremely excited around the beginning of it.
Really?
So he's like pouncing around. His ears are tucked back. His eyes are wide, and he's like running laps. It's crazy. And then he
I need some of
crashes.
that shit.
He crashes and he's out of it. Sky wobbles, so she like wobbles. So she, but I mean, she's fine. I could still take her for a walk if I wanted to.
Yeah.
But
With Benny, it's just like I haven't heard from Benny from like in an hour, and then he'll be in his bed just sleeping, and we'll be like Benny, and he's just like,
yeah, I mean, it's not the best for them. So I mean, I've
right.
learned that THC is not good for dogs, especially in high amounts, and it
Chia
can make them
seeds?
throw up. THC, so like
Oh,
if they're eating weed, but then it's not necessarily the best for them. They're probably gonna throw up at some point.
but there's like CBD oil drops for dogs too, right?
CBD's fine. Like I
Anxiety.
say, CBD's okay. And it's not necessarily for anxiety. That's a big old
Oh
thing.
no.
Everybody's like, "Oh, I'll give my dog CBD for anxiety." No, it's actually good for like inflammation and joints, things like that. Not necessarily anxiety. It's not gonna help your dog feel better.
What if your dog like licks his paws a lot? I heard that could be like an allergic reaction that they're having to something.
Yeah, if they're licking their feet, it's usually stress related. If they're chewing their feet, it's a food allergy, or it's could be a food allergy.
I have to keep in contact with you. I mean, we're approaching the hour.
Yeah,
Um,
for sure.
but I mean, you're such a wealth of information for dogs. That's why I was so excited that you agreed to come on. Thank you so much, Natalie Mercer.
Yeah,
Tell
definitely.
everybody how they can contact you or find you.
Yeah, we're Sky Dogs Training on Instagram. We're Sky Dogs on Facebook. So feel free to contact us. And we do group classes, board and train, whatever you guys need. We can do it all. So,
Thank you
no,
so much.
definitely. Thanks for having me. It was
Stay
super
happy and
fun.
healthy. It's good talking to you, and I will be in touch.
All right. Sounds good.
Peace.
Bye.